Another draft is in the books. Today we are going to recap the 2025 Detroit Tigers MLB Draft class. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Welcome in. Welcome all, everybody. Happy Tuesday. The Detroit Tigers, obviously, are on the All-Star break today. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, is in fact the All-Star game. Last night, I'm actually recording this just before the Home Run Derby, so I got to finish this up so I can go watch some long balls being hit. Today, we are going to recap the Major League Baseball draft. Yesterday, we talked about the weekend series. Obviously, the Tigers having a really good year. I think that's putting it lightly. Best record in baseball at the All-Star break. Kind of slid into the All-Star break, though, with that 3-game sweep against the Mariners. But Sunday night, and then carrying over into Monday all day, starting at, I think, 11 a.m., if I remember right, and then going all the way through, 7 p.m. or later, was the MLB Draft. And we always do draft breakdowns here. I did a long stream. Well, it was a long stream, a live stream, rather, of the Detroit Tigers' first 3 rounds with Tigers Minor League Report. I've done that for 4 or 5 years in a row, so you can go to their YouTube page and watch, us just break down the entire draft, see what, our live reactions to the Tigers picks, etc. Also did a draft conversation for the top picks, at least, with Evan Petzold over at Days of Roar with the Detroit Free Press. So you can go check that podcast out as well, or you can just buckle up and enjoy the ride, and we'll go over it here. Okay, so in this year's draft, Tigers had, 20 rounds plus a competitive balance round A pick, so 21 players. We'll see how many of them they sign. I want to start off, before we get into the actual players themselves, and just talk about the profile of players that this front office seems to be drawn to in the Scott Harris and like Mark Connor era. This is a organization that in the 70s drafted incredibly well. Like it is the pinnacle of drafting and developing a core internally, right? Especially you talk about like the mid and then into the late 70s. Since then, it has been, I think mediocre would be like putting it at best, like super nicely and probably not even accurate. There has not been a lot of player development here and really good draftable, like draft classes as a whole since then. And now, in the Scott Harris era, something that I think, regardless of your opinion of him, he deserves credit for, is it seems like the drafting has gotten better. And again, Connor deserves a ton of credit for that as well. The profile they go to is just so different from the Avila era, right? Avila was very drawn towards big conference college players. And like he still took Riley Green, and there's some exceptions to that. But for the most part, especially with high picks, you saw, right, like SEC school power players. Faedo falls into that. Obviously, Casey Mize falls into that. Torkelson wasn't an SEC school, but obviously falls into that category as well. Like just it was very common. You even go down like the Christian Stewarts of the world, right? Like you go down past the first round, and that was just something that regime was very big on. Harris and co. are very big on prep players. It's almost the exact opposite. The as far away from big conference collegiate players as you can get is kind of like prep bats. Okay. And certainly Avila took a prep arm, in his second to last draft, took Jace Young, obviously, in his last draft, but like still took Job, like what certainly, again, some exceptions to that. But you look at the amount of prep players drafted, it is night and day. Okay. Just look at the amount of high school players taken in each draft class over the last 10 years from the Detroit Tigers. It's like 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, 3, 11. And it's like, oh, what happened? Well, Scott Harris took over. So it's clearly part of the profile in that way. Now, they also have been, and it's kind of been like a joke to an extent, but it's really not a joke anymore. They love left-handed hitting high school bats. And when you talk about, aside from just like the raw, like intangibles or the measurements and stuff like that, when it comes to on the field, we are seeing a lot of players that fit those categories, but also have really good bat to ball skills, right? Max Clark falls into that category. Kevin McGonigal falls into that category and did on draft night. Bryce Rayner is a guy that falls into that category. And now this year, again, we'll talk about the individual players here in a second. At the top of the draft, you had a couple of guys that kind of fall into that category too. So they look for high school players. Bats at the top of the draft has been the theme for every year of this era as well. Good bat to ball skills, good knowledge of the strike zone, high walk rate guys, low strikeout rate guys. They also don't seem to care about power on draft night. That seems to be something that this front office has a belief that their development can, develop power out of these hitters. And that's something that they're going to need to do if they want the players they took this year, especially, to take that next step. But we talk about that with Clark all the time as well, right? Also, a lot of athletes, guys that are athletic and plus defenders at premier positions up the middle. A lot of catchers, a lot of shortstops, a lot of center fielders. And if they don't stick at those positions, then fine. Like the Padres are the perfect example of why you do that, right? Look at the Padres lineup, dude. It's like 7 or 8. I think at one point it was literally all 8 position players on the field were shortstops at one point, or were shortstops like when they were coming out of high school. So you take people that are athletic and that you go, you know what, even if they don't stick there specifically, they'll be plus defenders somewhere because they're athletic. On the pitching side of things, again, haven't seen a ton of pitching at the top of the draft yet in the Harris era. However, another reoccurring theme seems to be they don't care too much about velocity, which is interesting for an organization that we're kind of asking to get more velo in the bullpen. But I think that is something that they, again, believe they can develop. They believe they can add on some muscle, and obviously with mechanics, they can improve velo. They think that that's easier to develop, I should say, than stuff and spin. So that seems to be the kind of the reoccurring theme throughout the last few years, and they stuck true to that. So that's why I wanted to do this first. Like, if you like the players that the Tigers have gotten in the last 2 drafts, which pretty much everybody in media circles at least does, right? There's a lot of talk about how great the Tigers farm system is, how, this next wave of prospects, we got the big 3, we got Rayner, etc., right? there is a clear philosophy and a clear profile that they are going after and that they believe develops good. They believe their organization can develop into good prospects. And we saw that again this year. So let's talk about these individuals and we'll talk about their profiles and kind of what we can expect, what they need to work on, et cetera, et cetera. We'll do all of that right after this. First, though, got to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Have you ever wished managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building your wealth. There's a lot of fantastic features there. Again, like it tracks your spending so you know certain areas that maybe you didn't realize you were spending so much money on, or certain subscriptions you forgot you had, stuff like that. And if you share your finances with somebody, Monarch is always helping you stay on the same page with that person and makes sharing money easier than ever and sharing an account easier than ever. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow. We'll do some, where the Tigers stand at the All-Star break. First half surprises, second half, what are we looking for type of stuff. Today, though, we recap the MLB Draft for the Tigers. Took 21 fresh faces to add to the organization. This year, I think there was a clear want or desire, goal, if you will, to add pitching depth to this organization. We have praised the pitching development in this organization for the last couple of years. It has been something that I think has taken a lot of strides in the right direction. That being said, you still need talent. And I feel like this is the thinnest the pitching has been in the organization in terms of just, again, like farm system, probably in Scott Harris's era. And part of that is just like he's always had Job in the back pocket, and you have like the high end, developable, whatever, the high end, ceiling of possible outcomes with Job that was always kind of sitting in, waiting in the wings there. But, like this is an organization that if you give it good pitching talent, can do a lot with it and has proven that time and time again. So 11, we'll call it 11 and a half pitchers. One of them is a two-way player, 5 lefties, 8 and a half, again, righties. We'll talk about him too. Kind of a cool athlete and a cool talent. But yeah, stayed true to their philosophy, took young bats early, filled out a lot of the pitching, which was shallow organizationally. And I think that that's good. So with the first pick, they take shortstop Jordan Yost, who is a prep player, as stated. Honestly, I have no problems with this draft as a whole on draft night, and I certainly don't with the first pick. I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting that the Tigers picked 24, dude. We got somebody who wasn't even projected to go in the first round. Well, that was single digit picks away from not being a first round pick. Like, yeah, that's we pick at the end of the first round. That is kind of how that works. But Yost is a bat to ball guy. He had 1 total strikeout his senior year of high school and only had 10 total strikeouts in his 4-year prep career. That is absolutely wild. Didn't have like a super high walk rate, but that's kind of just because he hit literally everything. So I think that that's something that they really liked. He's really athletic. has a good glove at shortstop. I think they hope that he can stick at shortstop. Is fast, too, is an athletic guy. But the big thing with him, and the thing that a lot of people have kind of circled and highlighted as a point for concern, I guess you would say, is he has not showcased really any power at all up to this point. Yoast is, again, really good at putting the ball in play and hitting nice line drives. Had one of the lowest exit velocities of the draft combine and throughout his season. Just consistently didn't hit the ball very hard, didn't have a lot of home runs, for a first round pick high schooler. You're used to seeing home runs kind of jump off the page. That's not Jordan Yost's game. And I think that is something that a lot of people, highlighted and kind of were like, oh, like that may be a cause for concern. I think that's fair. And again, going back to the conversation in segment 3, again, that's why we started with it. Like that is something that the organization is hoping that they can develop, and certainly something that he is going to need to develop to reach his full potential. You're talking about a ceiling of a plus shortstop with speed that puts the ball in play. Maybe even if he only develops like consistent doubles power in Comerica Park, like could be a real game changer. But if he ends up just being a slap ball, doesn't hit the ball hard ever type of guy, then you're talking about probably more of like a utility player, type of floor that maybe is never an everyday regular. So wide range of options. That's why the Tigers take prep players. That is why they are so keen on that. They have high ceilings. They also have very low floors, but they have the highest ceilings, especially when you're picking this late in the first round. So I some people there's always a big reaction on draft night. Who knows, man? Who knows? This is a profile they think they can work with. And I think there's a wide range of outcomes. But this is also a guy that is talented, and I'm excited to see play. It's just, you're picking at the end of the first round, and that's the pool that you're dealing with. So yeah, we'll see. The pick that I'm the most excited about in the draft is their competitive balance round A pick, Michael Oliveto, another prep player. He is a catcher, which is, to no surprise to anybody why I am such a big fan of his. This is a bat first catcher that I think has the ability to stick behind the plate. Now, there's some media out there that have talked about maybe some struggles defensively. I think that there's a lot to break down and digest with catcher defense. Maybe I'm just overly analytical because I was a catcher, but he has a really bad pop time. It is slow. The footwork when he throws down on runners stealing on him is slow. That is all true. He also was 17 years old this season. So there's plenty of room to improve there. I do think, however, that his receiving is actually not bad. I don't mind the blocking and the receiving for where he's at in his baseball career, and he hits the ball really well. This is a guy that has a decent amount of pop, but is another bat to ball, knows the strike zone really well and makes contact with the ball a lot type of player. That's a really high ceiling to get taken outside of the first round. If he becomes sticks behind the plate, becomes a solid defensive catcher that has that high upside at the plate, is a 250 hitting, 20-ish home run guy, that's a really valuable player. A really valuable player. So again, another wide range of outcomes. His floor, he ends up, in right field, and because he can't stick behind the plate for whatever reason, and the power maybe doesn't develop as much with him either, but he has already showcased more than, somebody like Yoast had. In the second round, their third player, however, the Tigers take Malachi Witherspoon out of Oklahoma. If you followed college baseball this year, you are aware that Witherspoon's brother went 15th overall to the Boston Red Sox, had a fantastic season. The Tigers get Malachi here in the second round, so it falls a little bit. The biggest difference between him and his brother is just the ability to throw strikes. The stuff is rather similar. Witherspoon has a mid-90s fastball and like got hitters out at an SEC school. We talked about that earlier too, right? Like that counts for something. The biggest thing is again, just like the ability to fill the zone. So again, that's something the Tigers think they can develop. He also like the floor. There's reliever risk there, which I think some people say with like a negative connotation. If I get a high leverage reliever with my third pick in the MLB draft, that is a win. We have to contextualize the Major League Baseball draft. Okay. This is not like the NBA where everybody in the top 10 is like guaranteed almost going to be like an all-star caliber player, and the top 5, you want to build around them, et cetera, et cetera. Like the MLB draft is so much more variance. If you get a major league talent outside of the first round, it's a win. So Witherspoon has touched like upper 90s in his career. So, worst case scenario, the command doesn't ever get good enough where you feel comfortable throwing him out there 3 times through a lineup. And he just is a guy that can throw 99 miles an hour out of your bullpen from the right side. There is nothing wrong with that. I think this is a really good high floor pick. Even if the ceiling, the lower ceiling maybe had him fall down boards in comparison to his brother, this is a really high floor player that at worst is going to find himself in a bullpen at some point. Let's talk about round 3, Ben Jacobs out of Arizona State. Then we will get into day 2 of the draft and quickly go over rounds 4 through 20 and who the Tigers took there. We'll do all of that right after this. First, though, I've got to talk to you all about our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that is made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros that are looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and so much more, discounts, etc. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it is your turn. So join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, you can use promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in. On the final pick of night 1 of the draft, the Tigers took Ben Jacobs, a lefty from Arizona State University. Arizona State, one of the most prolific baseball programs in the entire country, one of the most historic as well. Ben Jacobs, a lefty that doesn't have a super high velocity, kind of sits low 90s and went to college, so you don't expect too much more growth in that department. However, he has good stuff. And the reason he has good stuff is because he spins the heck out of the baseball. Really good spin metrics. And that's somebody that the Tigers really like, those lefties with spin. I guess everybody kind of likes everybody with spin. But you have guys like Brant Herter, right, who don't set the world on fire with velocity, but can spin it. And that's where his value comes from. I think somebody much smarter than me compared him. I don't think I just thought of that myself. I'm pretty sure somebody already said like, oh, kind of like Brant Herter. So I'll give them credit, whoever I'm thinking of. I've read so much on so much baseball in the last 2 days. My brain is kind of soup. But again, for a third round pick, you get a guy that has been the biggest reason why he finds himself as a fourth pick for a team, in the toward the end of the third round, is again because of a failure to consistently throw the ball in the strike zone while he was at Arizona State. So that is, again, something the Tigers will be looking to develop. The rest of the draft, rounds 4 through 20, go through them, talk about any noteworthy, stories with these guys. Round 4, they took left-handed pitcher Caleb Lees, I believe it's Lays, from the University of Maine. Honestly, just really cool to draft somebody from the University of Maine. Had a sub-3 ERA. The reason why I really like this pick is because he's a lefty that does have good velocity, hit 96 miles an hour. And this is where you can get a lot of gems. And this is why the MLB draft is so fascinating after the top picks. You get the big prep players that, played for prominent high schools. You get the big conference, college players at the top of the draft. In the bottom, you have just a ton of guys that dominated their small conferences or just like not even Division I baseball, but dominated. And you have to put, your faith in scouts and go, okay, I think that this will translate to professional hitters and isn't just a guy, sharp pencil in a dull box. Like this is where, that is made, and that like Tarek Skubal, 9th round pick, right? Like that's a prime example that we see every 5th day. So yeah, we'll see. Obviously, obviously not everybody's Tarek Skubal, and really nobody else is Tarek Skubal. But I do like the fact that they found a lefty that has solid velocity there outside of the top 3 rounds. Round 5, they take Ryan Hall, a prep right-handed pitcher from Georgia. Actually have some family that lives in that area, so that's kind of cool. But this is again young prep. This is their first prep arm that was taken in the draft, and so that is a theme as well. In the last few drafts, they've taken at least one, if not multiple, prep arms in the top. Paul Wilson a couple years ago, Ethan, I can never say his last name, last year. So they are trying to add, maybe some college arms that can hopefully move through the system a little bit quicker, while also replenishing the pitching depth in the lower levels of the minor leagues as well. Round 6, they take left-handed pitcher Grayson Grinsell from Oregon. Round 7, this is a really fun one. Drafted him as a two-way player. We'll see which one sticks. I highly doubt they're going to get, both out of him at the highest level. Kale Wetwiska from Northern Oklahoma, which is a junior college, so a JUCO kid. So just 20 years old. JUCO players can be draft eligible anytime after their first year. Played outfield and pitched and did pretty well at both. Had a couple of really big hits late in the season, according to, Baseball America, and the Freep actually put out a great kind of draft recap too, but also had really solid pitching numbers and has some decent velocity off the bump. So I think this is one where the Tigers are looking at a guy that is really good at baseball and is an athlete clearly, and they'll turn him into whatever they feel most comfortable with. I don't know. It kind of sounds like pitching might be the future there, but we'll see. Round 8, they take outfielder Nick Dumisnil out of California Baptist. Round 9, left-handed pitcher Trevor Heichman, which is another prep lefty. Round 9, maybe signability question mark, but we always love those prep arms. One of my favorite picks in the draft is the 10th round pick, catcher, shocker, Idian Espenol from Central Florida. Okay, this is a 5'9" switch hitting catcher that has played all over the infield as well as caught. The Tigers draft him as a catcher, but again, just played kind of all over the infield at Central Florida. I love it. Like, those are the kind of, again, you're looking for tools, especially this late in the draft, the 9th, 10th, 11th round. You're looking for tools that you can hold on to and develop. Switch hitting catcher that's athletic enough to kind of play all over the place. I'll gladly take a shot in the dark on that in the 10th round. 11th round. This is one of the picks of the draft. Okay. One of the picks. It is, I guess, objectively, one of the best picks of the draft if they can get him to sign. River Hamilton out of Oregon is a prep right-handed pitcher. This is insane value. This is a guy that's widely considered to be one of the better prep arms in the class, was widely thought of to go in that, top couple, few, maybe top 4 rounds, but fell. And because the baseball draft is weird and you have slot money and signing, money and all of that, once you start falling a little bit, you kind of just sometimes see a free for all, because then it goes, okay, we're not going to be able to sign him. We don't want to go way over slot for a certain pick. So we're just going to let him fall. And the Tigers take that chance. If they can go under slot on some of that talent at the top, because they were taken ahead of maybe where they were projected to go, and they have some money left over, getting this guy, he's an LSU commit. LSU just won the Natty, one of the best programs, if not the best currently, them or Tennessee, in the entire country. You're getting a premier talent outside of the first 10 rounds because people were just afraid that they wouldn't be able to sign him. Now, that comes with risk. You might not sign him. He might just go to LSU and say, you know what, 3 years from now, I can get first round money. But I think outside of the first 10 rounds, that's worth the risk. Why not? 12th round, you have Cash Cooper from Murray State, a right-handed pitcher. 13th round, Jack Goodman from Northeastern. 14th round, you have Bo Ankeny from Loyola Marymount. He set the home run single season record at his school as a first baseman. So the only guy that isn't a premier position here in the entire draft. He's the only catcher, shortstop, or outfielder. And so that should kind of tell you what the Tigers feel about what his bat could be. 15th round, you have Charlie Christensen from Central Arkansas, right-handed pitcher. 16th round, right-handed pitcher Joe Ruzicka from Belmont. Once you get into the later, you're talking about guys that I have not heard of, don't have a profile on. Round 17, Joey Wimpelberg from Central Florida. 18th round, left-handed pitcher Ethan Rogers, which is a prep player. Those, once you start getting prep in the 18th and 19th and 20th rounds, those guys become even harder to sign because the slot money is lower and they have, usually commitments to decent schools. Another great pick, if they can get him to sign, is 19th rounder Meriden LeFew, which is one of the best names in the entire draft as well. Prep shortstop, another guy widely considered to be one of the 200 best prospects in the entire pool. The Tigers get him at pick 579 because of, once he falls a little bit, can we get him to sign, etc. This is one that, kind of copy and paste conversation, right? If you can get him to sign, it's a great pick. If not, you burn through your pick, you don't get him, but it's the 19th round. I think that's probably worth the risk. And then with their last pick, they take outfielder Cameron Douglas from Alabama State. Okay. All in all, I think this is fine. And time will tell more than anything else. We don't know what we don't know. But they have stuck with their guns. They have been really pleased. The Tigers have been really pleased with their last 2 drafts and said, you know what, we're going to stick to that and go with that same profile, despite the fact that we don't have a premier, top 10, 15 pick in the draft. And I think that they have at a minimum earned the benefit of the doubt there. So we'll see where these players kind of rank in prospect rankings. We'll see. But I see so many people that, again, look at draft rankings and are like, oh, we took someone that was ranked 50 at the 24th pick. What a joke. This is not the NBA draft. This is not the NFL draft. There's so much more nuance to the Major League Baseball draft because of slot money and whatnot. That's just not how it works. And so I am excited for this influx of talent. We'll see where everybody reports to, and we'll see who signs and who doesn't. We'll keep you all up to date here on who signs and who doesn't going forward. Yeah. The only other big storyline was Jack Bauer didn't get drafted. This is a prep pitcher that can throw 103 miles an hour, but he has no clue where it's going and doesn't really have any secondary stuff, so no one took him. And it's kind of the perfect example of the difference between fans and the scouts in front offices. 30 teams passed on him 20 times, and there's fans that are like, oh, this is ridiculous. Why didn't my team take him? 30 teams passed on him 20 times. I think he's going to go to Mississippi State. They'll see if they can make him a starter. If not, he'll be a closer that can throw 103 miles an hour, and he'll get drafted in the second or third round in a few years. Okay, enjoy the All-Star game. I'm going to go watch the Home Run Derby. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.